The sound of blaring music and laughter echoing through the mountain valley made my blood boil. I stood at the edge of my property, staring in disbelief at my own cabin. My cabin. The one I'd built with my own hands, the one that was supposed to be my peaceful retreat from the world. Instead, it looked like a frat party had exploded all over it. Cars were parked everywhere, on my lawn, blocking my driveway, even on the flower beds my late wife had planted. People I didn't recognize were stumbling around my deck with red Solo cups, and someone had strung up tacky party lights that definitely weren't there when I left 3 days ago. But the cherry on top of this disaster Sunday? There she was, standing on my deck like she owned the place. Linda Morrison, our HOA president and the biggest Karen in a 50-mile radius. Let me back up a bit. I'm Jake, and I've been dealing with Linda's nonsense for 3 years now. Ever since she got elected HOA president, she's made it her personal mission to make everyone's life miserable. She's the type who measures your grass with a ruler and fines you if it's a 1/4 inch too long. She once gave me a violation notice because my mailbox was the wrong shade of blue. Apparently navy blue wasn't acceptable, only midnight blue was approved. But this was a whole new level of crazy even for her. I marched up to my own front door, which was standing wide open like some kind of public venue. Linda spotted me immediately and strutted over with that fake smile she always wore when she was about to ruin someone's day. "Jake. There you are," she chirped like we were old friends. "I was wondering when you'd show up." "Linda," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "what the hell is going on here?" Her smile didn't waver. "All this? Well, I needed a venue for the HOA board's annual appreciation party, and your cabin is just perfect. So rustic and charming." I blinked. You're throwing a party at my house? Without asking me? "Well, I tried calling you but you didn't answer," she said with a shrug. "And really, Jake, this cabin just sits here empty most of the time. It's wasteful. I'm actually doing you a favor by putting it to good use." I felt my eyes start to twitch. "Linda, this is my private property. You can't just—" "Actually," she interrupted, pulling out a folder from nowhere like some kind of evil magician. "According to HOA Bylaw 47B, any property that appears abandoned for more than 72 hours can be temporarily utilized for community purposes. You've been gone for 3 days, so technically, this is all perfectly legal." I stared at her. "That's not a real bylaw." "Oh, but it is. I had it added last month." The vote was unanimous. She leaned in closer and I could smell her overpowering perfume. "Maybe if you attended the meetings you'd know these things." The vote was unanimous because nobody goes to those meetings except Linda and her 2 cronies, Betty and Susan, who follow her around like lost puppies. But I was too stunned to argue the point right then. "Linda, I want everyone out. Now." Her smile finally cracked a little. "Oh, Jake, don't be such a spoilsport. The party just started. Besides, we've already paid for everything, the catering, the DJ, the decorations. It would be such a waste to shut it down now. I don't care if you paid for a circus and 3 elephants. This is my house." "Well," she said, her voice getting that dangerous edge it always had when someone dared to oppose her, "I suppose you could call the police. But they're all here enjoying the party." She gestured toward the crowd and sure enough, I spotted Officer Martinez from the local sheriff's department dancing near the speakers. I looked around at the chaos. Someone had moved my outdoor furniture to make room for a makeshift dance floor. My carefully arranged garden gnomes had been relocated to spell out HOA rocks. A group of teenagers I'd never seen before were doing cannonballs into my hot tub. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. "Cheer up, Jake." Linda patted my shoulder like I was a sulking child. "Try to enjoy yourself. There's plenty of food and the DJ is taking requests. Oh, and don't worry about cleanup, we'll have everything back to normal by Sunday." Sunday. It was Friday night. They were planning to party at my place for the entire weekend. "I'm calling my lawyer," I said. Linda laughed. Actually laughed. "Good luck with that. It's Friday night, Jake. Your lawyer is probably at home with his family, not waiting around to handle your little tantrum." She was right and we both knew it. My lawyer, Bob Peterson, was old school. He didn't even check email after 5 p.m., let alone on weekends. "Now, if you'll excuse me," Linda continued, "I need to go announce the raffle. We're giving away that lovely set of wind chimes hanging on your porch. Aren't they adorable? Those wind chimes were a gift from my wife before she passed. They were one of the few things I had left of her, and Linda knew it." Something inside me snapped. "Fine," I said quietly. "You want a party at my place? Go right ahead." Linda looked surprised by my sudden change of attitude. "Really? Really? Just try not to break anything too important." I turned and walked away, leaving Linda looking confused but triumphant. I could hear her telling someone that she'd handled the situation, as I disappeared into the woods behind my cabin. But here's the thing Linda didn't know. I'm not just some pushover retiree. I spent 30 years as a security consultant, specializing in home protection systems. And my cabin? Well, let's just say it has some very special features that I'd installed over the years. You see, living alone in the mountains, you learn to be prepared for anything. Bears, burglars, door-to-door salesmen. I had defenses for all of them. Motion sensors, hidden cameras, remote-controlled systems for just about everything in the house. I'd spent years perfecting my setup, testing it, improving it. And now, thanks to Linda's little party, I was finally going to get to use it. I hiked to my backup cabin, a small hunting lodge about a quarter-mile away that nobody knew about. It was basic, but it had everything I needed, including a direct link to all the security systems in my main cabin. I fired up my laptop and watched the live feeds from my hidden cameras. The party was in full swing. People were everywhere, touching my stuff, eating off my dishes, using my bathroom. Linda was holding court on my deck, telling everyone what a generous community member I was for letting them use my place. Time for Phase 1. I activated the sprinkler system. Now, my sprinkler system wasn't your average lawn sprinklers. These were high-pressure, industrial-grade heads that I'd installed after a small wildfire got a little too close to my property a few years back. They could pump out serious water volume when needed. The screams were immediate and hilarious. 1 second, everyone was dancing and laughing. The next, they were getting blasted with freezing cold mountain water from every direction. People ran for cover, slipping on the suddenly wet deck, scrambling for their cars. But Linda? Linda was made of sterner stuff. She stood there, soaking wet and furious, shouting over the chaos. "This is sabotage. Jake, I know you're doing this." I grinned and moved to Phase 2. The lighting system in my cabin was completely automated and controlled remotely. With a few clicks, I turned off all the exterior lights, plunging the party into darkness. Then I started flashing them randomly, on, off, like some kind of demented disco. More screams. More confusion. Car alarms started going off as people bumped into vehicles in the dark. I watched through my infrared cameras as the crowd started to thin out. But Linda was still there, trying to rally her remaining party guests like some kind of soggy general. "Everyone calm down," she shouted. "It's just a malfunction. We're not letting one little technical difficulty ruin our party." Technical difficulty. I like that. Phase 3, the sound system. I'd installed speakers throughout my property for playing nature sounds, bird calls, gentle streams, that sort of thing. Very relaxing. But they could also play other things. Louder things. I started with air horns. Sudden, random blasts at maximum volume that made everyone jump out of their skin. Then I switched to a recording of wolves howling that I'd made during a camping trip in Alaska. Then came the sound of chainsaws starting up, followed by maniacal laughter. The remaining party guests were practically running now. Even Officer Martinez had sobered up pretty quickly and was heading for his car. But Linda? Linda was determined to outlast me. "Fine," she yelled at the darkness. "You want to play games, Jake? Two can play at that game." She marched into my cabin like she owned the place. Through my interior cameras, I watched her stomp through my living room, dripping water everywhere, looking for the main electrical panel. That's when I activated my favorite feature, the magnetic locks. Every door in my cabin was equipped with electromagnetic locks, completely invisible, but strong enough to keep out a bear if necessary. With the flip of a switch, Linda was trapped in my living room. I watched her try the front door, then the back door, then the windows. Nothing budged. The look of confusion on her face slowly turned to panic as she realized what had happened. "Jake," she screamed. "Let me out of here right now." Through the two-way speaker system I replied, "Sorry, Linda. According to HOA Bylaw 23G, any trespasser who refuses to leave private property can be detained until proper authorities arrive. I had that bylaw added just last month. The vote was unanimous. Of course there was no such bylaw, but turnabout is fair play. This is kidnapping," she shrieked. "Actually, it's citizen's arrest. Big difference. Legally speaking." I let her stew for about 10 minutes while the last of her party guests fled the scene. My cabin was finally mine again, even if Linda was still trapped inside it. But I wasn't done yet. Oh no, I was just getting started. Phase 4 was my masterpiece, the recorded confession. You see, while Linda had been busy playing hostess at my expense, my hidden cameras had been recording everything. Every conversation, every admission, every moment of her treating my home like her personal playground. I'd captured her admitting to making up the fake bylaw. I had video of her telling people they could take my wife's wind chimes. I had audio of her dismissing my property rights like they didn't matter. But the best part? I had her on camera going through my personal belongings while looking for the electrical panel. She'd opened drawers, gone through closets, even looked under my bed. That was breaking and entering, trespassing, and invasion of privacy all rolled into one neat little felony package. "Linda," I said through the speakers, "I think we need to have a little chat. Let me out of here, you psychopath." "I will, don't worry. But first, I want you to listen to something." I played back the recording of her admitting to the fake bylaw, followed by her going through my personal things. The silence from the living room was deafening. "Now," I continued, "here's what's going to happen. You're going to resign as HOA president, effective immediately. You're going to personally pay for any damages to my property. And you're going to write a formal apology letter to every homeowner in the neighborhood for abusing your position. You can't blackmail me." "I'm not blackmailing you, Linda. I'm offering you a choice. Option 1, you do what I just said and this little recording stays between us. Option 2, I send copies to the police, the HOA board, and that nice reporter from the local newspaper who's been looking for a story about HOA corruption." Another long silence. "You wouldn't dare. Try me. I've got all weekend and you're the one who's trapped in there, not me." I heard her moving around, probably looking for another way out. "Good luck with that. I designed this place to be escape-proof when locked down." After about 20 minutes, her voice came through the speakers again, much quieter than before. What exactly do you want me to write in this apology letter?" I smiled. "I'm so glad you asked." For the next hour, I dictated the most comprehensive apology letter in HOA history. Linda had to admit to overstepping her authority, misusing her position, creating fake bylaws, and generally being a power-hungry nightmare to everyone in the neighborhood. But I wasn't finished yet. "Oh, and Linda, one more thing. You're also going to establish a fund to help homeowners fight unfair HOA violations. Starting with a donation of $5,000 from your own pocket." $5,000? That's insane. Consider it a small price to pay for not going to jail. Besides, I know you can afford it. That fancy new car in your driveway didn't buy itself. By the time I finally unlocked the doors and let Linda out, it was nearly 3 a.m. She stumbled out of my cabin looking like a drowned rat, clutching the handwritten apology letter and muttering under her breath. "Remember, Linda," I called after her, "I still have those recordings. And I'll be watching to make sure you keep your word." She turned around one last time, her mascara running down her cheeks, her perfectly styled hair plastered to her head. "This isn't over, Jake." "Oh, but it is," I replied. "It really, really is." The next morning, I woke up in my backup cabin to the sound of cars pulling into my driveway. For a moment, I panicked, thinking Linda had come back with reinforcements. But when I checked my security cameras, I saw something that made my heart swell. It was my neighbors. All of them. They had buckets and cleaning supplies, and they were working together to clean up the mess from Linda's party. I rushed back to my main cabin to find Mrs. Henderson, the sweet elderly lady from next door, directing a full-scale cleanup operation. "Jake," she called when she saw me. "We heard about what happened. That Linda Morrison should be ashamed of herself." Apparently, word had spread quickly about Linda's unauthorized party. Several neighbors had driven by and seen the chaos, and by morning, everyone knew the story. "We couldn't just let you deal with this mess alone," said Tom from across the street. "Besides, most of us have been wanting to give Linda a piece of our minds for years." As we worked together cleaning up, more neighbors arrived. People I'd barely spoken to in years were suddenly chatting with me like old friends. It turned out everyone had their own Linda horror stories, ridiculous fines, made-up rules, power trips that had made their lives miserable. "You know," said Sarah from the corner house, "maybe it's time we elected a new HOA president." "I nominate Jake," called out someone from the crowd. "No way," I laughed. "I've had enough of HOA politics to last a lifetime. But I'll tell you what, whoever runs against Linda in the next election has my full support." That afternoon, Linda's resignation letter was in everyone's mailbox, along with her formal apology. The local newspaper ran the story on Monday, with the headline, "HOA President Resigns After Unauthorized Party Scandal." They didn't mention the recordings or my little trap setup. I'd kept that part to myself. Linda tried to fight the resignation at first, claiming she'd been coerced. But when 3 different neighbors came forward with their own Linda horror stories, and when the newspaper started digging into other questionable HOA decisions she'd made, she quietly moved out of the neighborhood entirely. The $5,000 fund she'd established became the Homeowner Defense Fund, and it's helped dozens of families fight unfair violations and overturn ridiculous HOA rules. As for me, I kept my security system, of course. You never know when another Karen might show up. But I also started hosting regular neighborhood barbecues at my cabin. With permission this time. My place went from being the hermit's hideout to the unofficial community center. And those wind chimes Linda had wanted to raffle off? They still hang on my porch, playing their gentle song in the mountain breeze. Sometimes I sit on my deck in the evening listening to them, and I can almost hear my wife laughing at the whole ridiculous situation. The best part? Our new HOA president, Mrs. Henderson, abolished most of Linda's stupid rules in her first month in office. No more measuring grass with rulers. No more approved color charts for mailboxes. No more fake bylaws that nobody voted on. But my favorite change? She added a new rule that any HOA board member who uses their position to throw unauthorized parties on other people's property will be immediately removed from office and banned from all future HOA activities. We call it the Linda Rule. Sometimes I get emails from other neighborhoods asking for advice on dealing with their own HOA Karens. I always tell them the same thing. Document everything, know your rights, and never underestimate the power of a good security system. But mostly I tell them what I learned that night. Sometimes the best way to deal with a bully is to give them exactly what they're asking for, just not in the way they expected. Linda wanted to use my cabin for a party? I let her. She just didn't realize she'd be the only guest, and the entertainment would be provided by yours truly. And you know what? I'd do it again in a heartbeat. After all, my cabin, my rules.